Captain Lira Maddox stared out at the black void of space through the observation window of the HDA warship Vanguard. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, tiny pinpricks of light that offered no comfort, only cold indifference. In the distance, the alien world of Rylothus 4 shimmered, its dense atmosphere swirling with dark clouds. Somewhere down there was an artifact, one the HDA desperately needed to secure before the galaxy's rival factions got their hands on it. Lira took a deep breath, running her gloved hand along the smooth surface of the metal rail in front of her. She had a reputation in the fleet: strict, disciplined, and always by the book. Her crew respected her for it, but she knew they also found her rigidity grating at times. She believed in protocol, in the order it brought, especially in a universe that was always on the brink of chaos. "Captain," a voice broke through her thoughts. It was Commander Jace Riker, her second-in-command and longtime friend. His rugged face, lined with years of battle, appeared on the comm screen beside her. "We're approaching Rylothus 4. Scans show multiple alien vessels in orbit," he said. His voice carried a note of concern. "Mostly unmarked. Pirates, probably." Lira nodded. "They're after the artifact, same as us. Ready the landing crew." "Jace, we're sticking to protocol." He hesitated for a moment, his brow furrowing. "Lira, you sure about that? This planet's a wild card. We don't know what we're walking into." She gave him a tight smile. "You know me, Jace. We do this by the book. No unnecessary risks." Jace's image flickered off the screen, and Lira steeled herself for the mission ahead. She knew he was right, this wouldn't be simple. Rylothus 4 was a lawless world, home to dangerous alien factions, smugglers, and pirates who didn't follow any rules. But Lira believed in humanity's code, the principles that had held the HDA together for centuries. An hour later, the Vanguard descended into the storm-laden atmosphere of Rylothus 4. The landing craft cut through the dense clouds, buffeted by turbulent winds. Lira sat in the cockpit, helmet on, her eyes scanning the horizon. Beside her, Jace piloted the craft with practiced ease, his hands steady on the controls. "Approaching the drop zone," Jace said, his voice calm despite the shaking of the ship. "We've got visual on the ruins." Lira peered through the windshield and saw the jagged remains of an ancient alien structure jutting out of the landscape below. The artifact was hidden somewhere within the ruins, buried deep beneath the surface. It was said to possess the power to control gravitational forces, a technology that, in the wrong hands, could devastate entire star systems. "Landing in 60 seconds, Jace called out, his eyes narrowing as the craft descended. "No sign of resistance yet." Lira's comm crackled to life. "Captain Maddox, this is Lieutenant Kale, securing the perimeter now. Looks clear, but there's some odd energy readings. You'll want to check them out." "Copy that," Lira replied, unstrapping herself from her seat as the landing gear touched down. "Stay sharp." The moment the craft hit the ground, Lira and her team disembarked, their armored boots crunching against the rocky terrain. The air was thick with humidity, and the distant rumble of thunder reverberated through the atmosphere. The ruins loomed ahead of them, a maze of collapsed stone and metal structures overgrown with alien vegetation. Lira raised her arm, activating her visor's scanner. Faint energy signatures pulsed beneath the ruins, definitely the artifact. But something felt off. The readings were unstable, erratic, and there was something else, a faint signature, one she hadn't seen before. "Proceed carefully," Lira ordered. "We'll follow protocol, but stay alert. Something's not right here." As the team moved deeper into the ruins, the air grew colder, the shadows longer. Lira could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on her. This artifact could change the course of human history. If they failed, it could end up in the hands of the Kirin Collective, a ruthless alien empire that had been at odds with humanity for centuries. "Captain," Jace called out from ahead, "we've found an entrance. Looks like a collapsed tunnel, but it's large enough to get through." Lira moved forward, her hand resting on the pulse rifle strapped to her back. She could see the tunnel Jace had mentioned, its entrance half buried under rubble. Beyond it, faint blue light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the stone walls. "Kale, you take point," Lira said. "We'll follow your lead." Kale, a tall, muscular man with a sharp tactical mind, nodded and stepped into the tunnel. The team followed in tight formation, their weapons at the ready. The further they ventured, the more the strange energy readings intensified. Lira's scanner began to beep, alerting her to the presence of something large and powerful beneath the surface. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a deafening roar echoed through the tunnel. The team froze, weapons raised, as a massive figure emerged from the darkness, a hulking, armored alien, at least 10 feet tall, with glowing red eyes and jagged spikes along its back. "Hold your fire," Lira ordered, raising her hand. The alien, clearly a guardian of some kind, stood still for a moment, studying the humans with cold, calculating eyes. Then, without warning, it charged. "Move," Jace shouted, diving to the side as the alien's massive fist slammed into the ground where he had been standing. Lira rolled to her feet, pulse rifle in hand, and opened fire. The energy bolt slammed into the alien's armor, barely making a dent. The creature let out another roar and swung its arm in a wide arc, knocking Kale to the ground. "We need to flank it," Lira shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Jace, get behind it. Kale, cover fire." The team moved with precision, following Lyra's orders without hesitation. Jace darted around the creature, firing at its exposed joints, while Kale peppered it with shots from the front. Lira took a deep breath, steadying her aim, and fired a concentrated burst at the alien's head. The blast hit its mark. The alien let out a final, guttural cry before collapsing to the ground, its body twitching as the life drained from it. "Is everyone okay?" Lira asked, breathing heavily. Jace nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "That thing wasn't in the briefing, Captain." "No, it wasn't," Lira muttered, her mind racing. "Something's changed here. This mission, it's not going to go by the book." Finally, they reached the central chamber, a vast, circular room with a high domed ceiling. In the center of the room, hovering above a pedestal, was the artifact. It glowed with a pulsing blue light, casting strange shadows on the walls. Lira approached cautiously, her pulse quickening. This was it, the key to humanity's survival or destruction. But as she reached out to take it, the ground shook again, and a cold voice echoed through the chamber. "You should not have come here, human." Lira spun around, her heart skipping a beat. Standing at the far end of the room was an alien figure draped in dark robes, its eyes glowing with malevolent energy. It was unlike any species she had ever encountered before, and there was a sense of ancient power radiating from it. "You have no idea what you're meddling with," the alien continued, its voice dripping with disdain. "That artifact is not meant for your kind." Lira raised her weapon, her jaw clenched. "By HDA law, this artifact belongs to us. Step aside." The alien laughed, a low, menacing sound. "Your laws are meaningless here. You cannot take what you do not understand." Before Lira could respond, the alien raised its hand, and a surge of energy shot through the room. Lira felt herself lifted off the ground, her body paralyzed by the force. Jace shouted, opening fire on the alien, but the energy field absorbed the blasts with ease. Lira struggled against the invisible bonds that held her, her mind racing. This wasn't supposed to happen. The mission was supposed to be straightforward, but now everything was falling apart. For the first time, Lira realized that sometimes, following the book wasn't enough. They pressed on, deeper into the heart of the ruins, where the energy readings were strongest. Lyra's unease grew with each step. The protocol that had once seemed so reliable was now useless in the face of the unknown. Lyra's body hung suspended in the air, the alien energy thrumming around her like a cage. Her mind raced, searching for a way out, but the force that bound her was unlike anything she had encountered before. It was as if the laws of physics themselves had been bent by the alien's will. "Captain," Jace shouted, firing again. This time, the alien's shield flickered for a brief moment, but it held firm. The alien smiled coldly, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Your weapons are futile, human. You are insects meddling in the affairs of gods." Lyra's heart pounded as she forced herself to focus. Panic would get her killed. She needed to think fast. "Jace, fall back," she managed to shout, her voice strained as the pressure around her body increased. "Not a chance." Jace fired another volley at the alien, his shots becoming more desperate. The energy field sparked again, but it was clear that brute force wasn't going to save them. The alien took a step closer, raising its hand. "The artifact will not fall into human hands. It belongs to those who understand its true power. You will leave here empty-handed, if you leave at all." Lyra's mind snapped into action. The alien's arrogance was palpable, and arrogance could be exploited. She knew she couldn't break free of the field by herself, but the artifact, the one they had come to retrieve, was still pulsing with energy behind her. Whatever it was, it had to be more than just a tool for gravitational control. It was connected to the room, to the alien itself. And maybe, just maybe, it could be her way out. She forced herself to speak, her voice steady despite the crushing force around her. You talk a big game, but your grip is slipping. How many humans have beaten you before? The alien's eyes flared with anger, its lips curling into a snarl. None. Then you've never faced someone like me, Lira shot back. The alien's focus shifted for a fraction of a second, its arrogance taking the bait. That was all Lira needed. In that moment, she reached out with her mind, not toward her weapons, but toward the artifact. The energy emanating from the object was unlike anything she had felt before, and as she touched it with her thoughts, a surge of power coursed through her. It was raw, chaotic, but there was something in it that responded to her, something alive. The artifact flared brightly, casting blue light across the chamber. The energy holding Lira in place wavered, and she felt the pressure on her body ease. No, the alien shouted, realizing what was happening too late. It raised both hands. Its concentration split between maintaining the field and stopping Lira from harnessing the artifact's power. With a final surge of will, Lira broke free, dropping to the ground just as a pulse of blue energy erupted from the artifact. The alien staggered backward, its shield faltering as the energy washed over it. Jace, seeing his opportunity, fired a precise shot. The pulse rifle blast struck the alien's exposed side, sending it crashing to the ground with a howl of pain. Lira pushed herself to her feet, her muscles aching from the strain. The artifact's glow had dimmed, but it still pulsed with energy, as if it was waiting for something. She turned to Jace, who was already at her side, pulling her to her feet. We need to grab it and go, Jace said, his voice tense. That thing's not dead. Lira nodded, but her gaze lingered on the artifact. It had responded to her. It had helped her escape. Whatever it was, it wasn't just a weapon, it was something far more powerful, and that terrified her. She reached out, her fingers brushing the artifact's surface. It was cold to the touch, but she could feel the energy swirling within it, almost as if it was alive. With a deep breath, she lifted it from the pedestal, the weight of its power settling into her hands. As soon as the artifact left the pedestal, the chamber began to shake. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling, and the distant rumble of collapsing tunnels echoed through the ruins. Move, now, Lira ordered, clutching the artifact tightly as they sprinted toward the exit. Behind them, the alien staggered to its feet, its eyes blazing with fury. It raised its hand, sending a blast of energy toward them, but Jace was faster. He dove to the side, pulling Lira with him as the energy bolt exploded against the wall, sending shards of stone flying in every direction. Lira gritted her teeth, the heat from the blast singing her uniform, but they kept running. The tunnel they had entered through was collapsing, the walls crumbling around them as they raced toward the surface. The roar of destruction filled the air, but Lira didn't stop. She could feel the weight of the artifact pressing against her chest, its power pulsing in time with her racing heartbeat. It wasn't just a tool, it was a key to something far bigger than any of them realized. They burst out of the tunnel, stumbling into the open air just as the ruins collapsed behind them. The Vanguard's landing craft was waiting, its engines already roaring to life. Kale waved them over from the open hatch, his expression grim. Get in, he shouted over the noise. Lira and Jace leaped aboard, the ramp closing behind them as the craft lifted off. Lira slumped into her seat, the artifact still clutched tightly in her hands. Jace sat beside her, breathing heavily. That was close. Too close, Lira muttered, her eyes fixed on the artifact. This thing, it's not what we thought it was. Jace glanced at the glowing object, his brow furrowing. What do you mean? Lira shook her head, her mind racing. I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's not just a weapon. The alien back there said it wasn't meant for humans. I think they're right. Jace frowned, leaning back in his seat. So, what do we do now? Take it back to the HDA? Let them figure it out? Lira hesitated. Protocol dictated that they return the artifact to the Human Defense Alliance for analysis, but after what she had experienced, after what the artifact had shown her, she wasn't so sure that was the right move. By the book, she thought to herself. I've always done things by the book. But the universe wasn't that simple anymore. The rules had changed. Lyra's gaze hardened as she made her decision. No, we keep it, at least for now. Jace raised an eyebrow. That's not exactly protocol, Captain. Lira gave him a wry smile. No, it's not, but if we're going to survive out here, we might need to start writing our own rules. As the landing craft soared into the stars, leaving Rylothus far behind, Lira felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. The mission wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time, she was ready to face the unknown, by the book or not. In the darkness of space, the artifact pulsed once more, as if acknowledging her decision.